Welcome to Networking Unleashed, Building Profitable Connections. Today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to because it hits at the intersection of grit, growth, and relationships that truly matter. Our guest has lived through moments that would have sidelined many people. Instead, he took those experiences, both from military service and personal setbacks, and built a leadership approach grounded in clarity, discipline, and measurable progress. He helps others rise above uncertainty with intention, create businesses that last, and surround themselves with people who lift them higher. He's not about hype, he's about real results. And here's and he's here to share how resilience shapes the way we connect, work, and succeed. I really want to welcome Tevin. You're like a brother from another mother. We have a kinship, and yes, you have the military behind you, which we all thank you for. But you're just one of us, right? So I would like to introduce Tevin to the podcast, and why don't you give us a little bit about your background and how you got here today?
Absolutely. And I really appreciate it, Michael, because it's an absolute pleasure to be here and being able to speak to everybody. And so, to give you a basic about me, let's start from the beginning. I actually came from a very poor beginning. I was adopted when I was a youngster. And from there, what ended up happening was I got over to an adoptive family, which was absolutely wonderful. I appreciate them for taking me in and taking on the challenge of me. But from there, it was definitely a little bit more difficult than I think they originally anticipated. And so with that was there were situations where we were the living conditions were kind of subpar, let's put it that way. Not a lot of clothing. There was a lot of re-wearing a lot of different types of things. The We don't have to go too far into there. I think we can get the picture from that. But then eventually, when I was 12 years old, I got my first job, and I started to learn some basic things. During this time, somebody that was supposed to be very close to me had said something, and it stuck with me. And they said that you are useless, you are going to be worth nothing, and you'll never do anything. So that right there, I was 12 years old. And so that was, let me tell you, I took those embers and those flames and I put them inside, and they have fueled me since. Because from that very moment, oh, and I also, to even just pour a little bit more salt in that, they said that you'll never find yourself a spouse or anything. No woman would ever want to go ahead and marry you one day. You don't have any skills, you're worth nothing. So, with that being said, from then on, I learned how to work on vehicles. I learned the construction space. I got myself into landscaping. I started learning all types of blue collar work. I figured out how to get into business. I was in middle school and I was selling little desserts and everything and upselling different kids. And I was pretty much reallocating their lunch money. And so right into my pocket. So I learned those basic skills when I was younger. And it wasn't that anybody was there to teach me, it was more or less survival instinct. And so I took a lot of those skills into my adulthood. When I was 17, I was kicked out of my home formally. And that was due to them no longer wanting me in their home. I had maybe $5 to $20 to my name. I had a small twin size mattress with me as far as my possessions go. That went along with a small box of just random knickknacks and whatnot. But that mattress had been with me for probably the better part of a decade. And before that, someone else probably had it for a decade, because I remember getting that bed. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, but I actually picked it up from the public dump. And so with that, I found somebody gracious enough to take me in. I had to pay rent. I didn't have rent money. And I was paying less than like $50 a month for a room. I literally couldn't afford anything whatsoever. And so from there, I ended up in a situation where I was trading labor for a place to live. And I worked for their business. And then one day they looked at me, they're like, Tevin, what are you going to do with your life? Because this situation, it ain't going to last for very much longer. And so I ended up joining the National Guard. And so that was my introduction into the military. And I'll tell you what, Michael, I found myself in basic training. And I'm not going to lie to you, right before I even shipped out, somebody said, hey, where are you? You're supposed to be at the airport. I'm like, what? For what? They're like, yeah, you got to go to basic training. Huh? What's that? And they're like, son, report to the airport immediately. Roger that. Okay. And then so I ended up going over to basic training and the AIT that followed it. And so after all that, I got back over to the state of New Hampshire. I was now officially in the military. I was a private first class at the time. And so it really just went from there to me going to college. And then also simultaneously, I went to the police academy, became a corrections officer for the state of New Hampshire over at the state prison. And then one day, I remember I was at the training for the summertime. All the National Guardsmen have to attend about 2 weeks out of the summer. And this platoon sergeant, he comes up to me, he says, hey, Tevin, yeah, you don't belong here. Huh? I'm like, what do you mean? And he's just basically proceeded to tell me, look, you've got some unique sets of skills that I haven't seen before. And at the time, I thought he was kind of yelling at me in a way, or there was disapproval. And I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. Eventually, he said, go try out for something more challenging where you will be able to be satisfied with what you're doing. He's like, you're special, man. And that was it. We left the conversation at that. Now, I ended up peeling back the layers on that later on. And one thing led to the next. I tried out for special forces. I ended up getting picked up. I was selected. And then after that, 2 years later, I donned the Green Beret. After having gone through a series of very difficult things, and throughout that course, it was very challenging mentally and physically, and at times spiritually, just due to the fact that I was so far displaced from everything that I knew. And I was just thinking in my mind, wow, this is so different, but I liked it. I liked it a lot, Michael, I'll tell you. And so after going through all that, I ended up opening several businesses. And along the way, I figured out that I had a very special gift for helping people. And I was talking to somebody one day, and they were like, I don't understand. Don't you need to like go ahead and wait for things to just come to you? And I told them, we had a very good and colorful conversation. I was like, no, because nobody owes me anything. And that in a way it's freedom. Because now I didn't really expect fairness anymore. I unlocked ownership in myself and my own actions. And it's responsibility. It isn't heavy, it's empowering. And so when you accept full ownership, excuses, they truly do disappear and clarity shows up. And so now here we are in a nutshell, how I got here.
Was pretty, I'd say, a pretty good story. It's, I think back to the way I started the military and the way I went in and everything else. I thought mine was a very good and colorful story until I heard yours. Okay. So mine doesn't even compare to yours. So I'm not even going to go into what mine was. Okay. So I am just going to hit you with a few questions. Right. So let me start out by saying many people see networking as surface level. How did adversity change the way you connect with others on a deeper level?
I love that question. Here's the thing. When I connect with people, I really am trying to develop something that is super authentic, real. It's not that I'm trying to get something out of them. I really do believe, I'm a stern believer. I think this would be the better way to say it, that everybody has something to offer. Everybody, everybody.
I agree.
And every single story matters. In everything that somebody does. I was actually at a very interesting event with John Maxwell, and he had spoken about something that was very religious in nature. But to give you the short and sweet of it, everybody has the ability to convey a message. And what's really cool is that every single person has a different level of ability to go ahead and convey said message. They have a different stage for it. And so some people, they have a massive stage, think Hollywood, or think like a massive following or gathering that they have cultivated over time. And I think that's great. But the networking overall, I really do try and never forget that everybody has something that is important and is likely a key puzzle piece inside the overall puzzle that we're all trying to put together over time. And it's 2025 years, and we're still going.
Absolutely. You have to put yourself in their position. It
Yeah.
may not be that important to you or something that you're working on, but if you turn it around and if you're them, it's important to them. And it's important what we call active listening. If you listen to them properly, if you listen to what they have to say, don't think about the next thing that you have to say. Think about what they are telling you, and then you repeat back some of what they said and say, if I understand you correctly, X, Y, X, Y, Z. And they'll say, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's the reaction that you want to get, because when you say authenticity, that's really like a buzzword that keeps getting thrown around all over the place. But if you truly believe it, if you truly believe it, if you're being your authentic self, you're being authentic to the person that you're speaking with, and they will feel it. They will feel
Yes.
it. They will feel it that they are being listened to, and that's such a big difference. And I can go into that a whole lot more, but I'm not. Okay. All right. All right. You face situations where perseverance was non negotiable. What habits do you now use when building new business relationships that come directly from those experiences?
Ooh, tying those two together. Okay, Michael, these are good things to think on. One thing in particular that I like to say is doing things with intention. Before I begin doing something, it could be as basic as just developing a relationship kind of thing. I'm thinking about them as holistically, not just now. Keep in mind when perseverance, I'm trying to go ahead and follow through with something and be continuous at it and ensure that there is an outcome. And I'm hoping that it's going to be a good outcome, of course. But with that being said, one thing that I'm doing during that time is that holistic approach. What I mean by that is I'm making sure that I am really there in part of the conversation. There's different types of listening. And so I love thinking about level one listening, level two, level three, anywhere from hearing the background noise that's going on, but then being able to still just take in the environment all the way down to like exactly how you were saying it, being able to almost regurgitate some as far like a little bit of mirroring, and then ensuring that everything is being understood, and then really just completely zeroing in. I don't know what's going on around me. I only see you. And so to go back to finishing answering that question, I'm thinking about their family. I'm thinking about the conversation that we're having and how it's going to impact you, how it's going to impact me. I'm thinking of things second and third order effects with a lot of these. And so this is something that's really helped me integrate really building up these relationships in business and taking the same principles as from perseverance and then bringing them over into this arena. And I'm also practicing self discipline, I'm practicing self control, and ultimately respect. And because that's just, and I like how you nodded there because I feel as though there's a lot of people who don't implement some of these things. And I'm not saying that this is the only method in which that one could go about using and then be successful. I think there's many different ways of doing it, but I think that this one has worked for me.
Absolutely. Bob Berg wrote about this in his one of his books, Go Givers. And it is truly, he's a remarkable man. As a matter of fact, I had him on a podcast a few episodes ago. And he practices everything that I truly believe in and what I practice. So if you practice, and if you practice just giving, right? Don't think about receiving. When you go to a networking event or sitting down with somebody, you figure out how you can help that person. And really, what I came up with was I like you, I like what you do for a living, I like how you do it. How can I make you more successful?
Yes,
How can I be a good referral source for you? And if I did my job correctly, they'll say, Mike, I don't even know what the hell you do yet. And you're already trying to make me more successful. And yes, that's exactly it. So give, try not to receive. So what goes around comes around. You will get, you will receive, but you have such a much better feeling if you're giving.
absolutely.
Oh,
It's all about providing that value. How can I be of value to you?
yes. Yes, absolutely. And that goes on with LinkedIn, with social media and everything else, but we'll get into that till later on. Okay. When someone is rebuilding professionally or personally, what approach should they use to restart their network with intention instead of desperation?
Wow. I really like that question. Rather than desperation,
Yes.
intention versus desperation. There's something here. So, if you're rebuilding something, say we take me, for example, Tevin, let's go ahead and just knock down everything and let's just rebuild. Let's rebuild your entire identity. What I would say is I would have that strong foundation of what we were just talking about, being of value to others. Because there's something interesting about humans, and it's that we're very naturally, and not saying 100% of humans, of course, but instinctually, we are very community based. And so, with that being said, think of it as it takes a village. And so, if, and we've all experienced this, especially in grade school, for example, where that one child who's inside of that little play area who's bullying all of the other ones and boasting about everything, they don't often have a lot of people around them. It could be because they were cultivating fear amongst their peers. It could be that they were being disrespectful, which that one's huge. And there could also be a slight inclination that they're becoming a loner, that they don't want people, that they're pushing everybody away. And for some people, it's a coping mechanism of sorts. And because everybody has different life situations going on, and that may provoke something like that. But the way that I would do it is I would start with being of value to others and showing people that, hey, I really am here to help you. And by me helping you, this amazing friendship that we're forging will actually slowly refine myself. Because if I can serve others, right now I'm teaching myself, okay, there is etiquette, which that's an interesting word that I haven't actually heard anybody use in a while. But there's
Yes.
also those different types of communication skills that are being developed. It furthers into my personal three rules, which I've already went into a little bit: self-control, self-discipline, as well as respect. But then one of the biggest ones is character. Building up these things may seem a little silly, but from the outside in, what I've noticed is that people do pick up on it. Simple acts such as smiling, those ones, like little things like that, they really do go ahead and stack up on one another. And so over time, I noticed that if I were to go ahead and redevelop myself by doing this over time, it would probably get recognized as being positive, and people may gravitate naturally towards that. And it's not because of coercion, it's not because of any malicious intent or anything like that. It's just simply being a good human. And people like that. I know it's some for some people it's kind of like a newsflash, but it's something that took me a long time to really figure out because I went through all those stages. I went through times when I thought that being a loner was better. I thought that building by myself was going to get me farther in life than anything. But what I slowly realized is that all those people who were fully content with what they were doing and competent, and they were showing all of these amazing traits, I realized, wow, they're very community oriented. They are not selfish. They are always looking to give back. And people see it and they want to be a part of it. And I
Yeah,
hope that was a
yeah,
good explanation.
absolutely. And it all comes down to it, something as simple as body language, right?
Mm,
You said smiling, and that's the first and foremost. Whenever anybody meets anybody or is in a networking event, would you rather talk to somebody who's smiling or they're always are upset like this? It's a whole different concept. Or if they're open as opposed to being closed. If they're standing shoulders straight to you, or they're talking to you like this and looking at everybody else in the room, paying attention to so all of that stems from exactly what you were saying. If you put all of this together, and it's no easy thing, somebody can't just say, oh, you know what, those guys were right and that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. This is something that's got to be practiced, that you've got to do. And listen, I always say, talk into a mirror. See when you're speaking with somebody, right? Practice smiling. I do a lot of workshops, and I always have the customer service people come in with the salespeople, and I say, put a little mirror next to the telephone, and smile as you're speaking with them because you can almost see the smile come through the phone. It's all about that. And I've had some very good results, but all of this comes down to how you're personified. It's all that body language. And when I coach the CEOs, CMOs, CIOs, all the C suite executives, I tell them, you've got to do all this because if I teach the people on the bottom, the salespeople and everything else, but I don't show you, what is that going to do for the company? That means that you're going to go back to doing the same old thing that you always did, and you're going to undo everything I taught them. So it's a whole give and take, but I digress. Okay.
yeah, I
What?
love those points though.
Yeah, yeah, it's so important. And listen, by me being a speaker and going out onto the road and everything, I've got 1,000 of these points, but this is a podcast. I'm trying to
Yeah.
put everything around you. Okay. What's one principle from your military background that you believe every entrepreneur should apply when developing professional connections?
A principle, one principle.
Yeah. Now, I want to tell you now, I've got up through the ranks. I was the law enforcement flight chief of my group. And there are many skills that I have, but I'm asking you to give me one principle from your military background that you believe every entrepreneur should apply when developing a professional connection.
Ooh. So thinking about, I guess we could say, I have so many different ones, so many different ones. But I think that one thing I will go with, and it's one of probably the most basic and foundational, is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. But if we were to go ahead and peel that back a little bit, for those who are thinking, oh, I'm not entirely sure what that means, but another way to think of it would be don't rush under pressure. If you can focus on precision and discipline and fundamentals, then you're good because rushing ultimately gets people hurt. Calm execution saves lives, can save relationships, can save all types of friendships and opportunities. There's a preservation around it. And just think, as a takeaway for this one small principle of slow is smooth, smooth is fast, speed, it comes after competence, not before it.
Very good. And I will second that whole thing that you just said because I had three other things in my head and you just picked out something completely different, but so in tune to what the question was. That was perfect. Okay. When someone feels stuck or defeated, how can the right connection become a turning point and what steps helps that happen?
So when they're stuck,
Yeah.
I felt stuck. I've hit that wall
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah.
And I would say there are certain friendships and people that you can just somehow see them as in almost think, wow, where were you the entire time? Because that one person can go ahead and just say that one thing that you just hadn't thought of. That also ties back into every person matters. And everybody has a very key piece of input and things. If you were to panic in a situation like this, it's likely going to create a mistake. And when you're stuck, that's when I'm talking about that panic right there. That's what creates the mistake. But if you can stay calm, it's going to create that clarity. Now, that one person right there that may have that one piece of input for you, it that could change everything. And so, as far as where you can go from there, now you have the opportunity to master those basics until they're absolutely automatic for you. And no matter what it is that you're doing, it's all going to show up naturally once those reps are all getting completed one after the next. And that one person, that one connection could have been that one thing that solves it. Heck, there are people out there, I'm not quoting anybody in specific, but I will paraphrase an article that I had read not too long ago. And there was this individual who had, I believe, a net worth of, I want to say $1,000. And that was everything that they had to their name. Okay. And that net worth was all liquid asset. There were no physical assets. And they spent, I believe, 900 something dollars and it was wasted. Now, I'm not saying that it was wasted. They quoted it as being wasted. Now, again, this is just paraphrasing the story. What ended up happening was they went to a party or a gathering, a celebration perhaps. And during this entire situation, what happened was they were standing in the corner, but they were still smiling. And you know how sometimes when people stand in the corner, they're usually mopey. Their facial expressions, it really says all. And so what ended up happening was somebody went up and they commented on the fact that, wow, you're in a corner, but you're happy. what's going on? And they're like, oh, you know, like those nervous people, they make joke on joke on joke when they're like, they don't know what else to do. That was that person's survival instinct. Somebody else had picked up on it and wanted to go ahead and lend a hand. So they had a very warm conversation. Now that person who was standing in the corner, nervously smiling, is now, I believe, worth over $15 million. That one conversation was all that person needed. And that conversation was, I would love to go ahead and get a cup of coffee with you. And from
Absolutely.
there, everything changed. I don't know the details of the story or the rest of what happened during that conversation over coffee. I'm assuming something very good though.
Absolutely. I want to take your mindset of what that story said, okay? And I want to put it into a LinkedIn conversation. You can ask for, if you're struggling and you want to get hold of someone, contact them on LinkedIn, say, look, I'm really interested in
Mm,
your company or your corporation. I would just like to pick your brain. Would you have 15 minutes for me or grab a cup of coffee? And 99 times out of 100, they're going to say yes. Because people love when they talk about themselves, but they love to help somebody else. Now, I've been fortunate where I've had two or three of those phone calls. They said, look, I'd just like to pick your brain. Would you mind if I bought you a cup of coffee? Not at all. I went out and had a cup of coffee. So but I told them, what do you want to know? Because I'll tell you anything. But that's the way it all starts. So if you don't have that one person that you can always turn to, to always give you that kind of a straight way of looking at it, if you need that alternate way, just pick somebody's brain, because you
mm,
never know where the information is going to come from, but you're going to make somebody else feel so, better, and they may know somebody who will help you. Everything happens in a circle, and everything happens for a reason. My mother said that for my whole life. Everything, whenever anything really bad happened, he goes, listen, don't worry about it. Everything happens for a reason, and you will be better. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. But it was proved to be correct almost every time. But the point of the story is, if you have that person to contact, to call, to email, to something, anything, just to get that little bit of advice, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do it. Just
mm.
go out and do it. That's all. Okay. What do people misunderstand most about discipline in networking, and how do you teach them to approach it differently?
The first thing that just came to mind is they feel as though, now for some people, I don't want to be attacking or anything like that, but they see it as tasking. They see it as a job. And for some of us, we're like, oh, I already have a really busy schedule. I got to go ahead and now find time to go network. I've got drive time. I've got kids. I've got martial arts classes. I've got yoga. I've got this. I've got that. We've all got things. We really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing about it is that ultimately, a closed mouth is not fed. So, one way that I would say to go ahead and shift the mindset is not, I have to go do this event over here. I have to go ahead and go participate in this networking event and meet people and pass out business cards that I had to pay for. I get to go meet these people. I get to go meet some incredible individuals in my own community who are making ripples through all of the town folk here. That is pretty special. Now, to even bring it to another level, imagine you thought to yourself, gosh, I get to be a part of this. And when I go ahead and think of things like that, because we all do it, even us as coaches and speakers, we sometimes are, as the parents would say, okay, kid, preach. As we're saying these things to other people, sometimes even us, we go ahead and forget about the lessons ourselves are teaching others. And so I found myself, of course, 100%. I am so far from perfect. Will never be a perfect person, but I will absolutely strive to make everyone smile and deliver absolute pure value to others at all times. And so, with that being said, I have found myself slipping before in the past, and really all the time in different ways. And I have to realign the way that I'm thinking and just remember this is an opportunity to do something good. Or who knows, even for some folks, depending on where it is that you are with whatever you've got going on, it could be an opportunity of greatness. And now that's pretty dang cool. And then who knows? What if it's something so amazing? Oh my gosh, Michael, could you imagine? What if Fred over here is about to go do something and this is actually going to solidify his family in their success for generations to come? My goodness, my head blown.
All you need, all you need is that one thing that will just twist just in your favor, and you'll never know unless you go out there and intentionally network.
Yes.
Intentionally go out and meet those people. You make the conversations. You make the conversation about them, not about you. You try to give, not receive. You just have a good time. Once you have the good time, you just imagine the weight that gets off your shoulders by you being
Yeah.
able to go there and do this. It's a wonderful feeling. And that's what I try to promote. So yes, everything you just said, yes and yes. It just intentional networking and it will all go away. Okay, so now you talk about clarity. How does someone decide who they truly need in their circle instead of just gathering a large list of contacts?
Well, the decision point.
Yeah.
when you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, does there feel like there's a weight lifted off your shoulders? Or does it feel like the weight fell on your shoulders?
Very good.
That right there is how I tend to look at it. And the reason for that is because, generally speaking, before one goes to bed, now, generally speaking, a lot of people I have spoken to do something similar in nature, or at least have the intent of doing something to ultimately reprogram their mind while they sleep. But most folks want to go to bed happy, satisfied, something of the sorts. Now, how do I get there? It could be that somebody performed a prayer. It could be that somebody wrote down, I know that some people have thought journals right beside their bed. And so that way they can write down maybe affirmations, or they can write down simple things that they must do the next day, or just things that they are thankful for. So when you wake up, are you dissatisfied? Okay, let's follow that. Why? What's going on there? Let's go ahead and really lift up the hood and see, is it you're not achieving what it is that you want to achieve? Okay, why is that? All right. Now we start off with the problem. Now we're moving down the chain. So it's okay. The people I was hanging out with, they always want to party. Ah, interesting. There we go. Now we're finding something here. I think breaking down, why are they always partying? Oh, I don't know, because that's all they ever do. Okay, I understand. Some people, they like doing certain things. What other friends do you have? What other relationships have you been working? And by working, not to say that, oh, I got to go ahead and do this. It's just more of the less way of asking, okay, what is going on? And then if they happen to maybe think, I don't have any other friends. Interesting. Okay, what are we doing in order to get friends? Are you going out and just like little socials, or are you going out to these networking events? What do you have going on? So that is how I begin figuring out my own circle. I not necessarily making it like on the disc where we have all those different types of behavioral analysis quotients. And I'm not necessarily putting friendship in all those little circles. I'm taking some of the knowledge of that and I'm thinking to myself, okay, some people are going to think about this very over analytically. Others are going to go ahead and just take a brief look at it and be like, okay, they could see, like, all right, yep, this friend wants to party all the time, never wants to do anything constructive, never really wants to hang out anywhere other than bar. And so that is how I start to really look at the circle, engage whether or not are these productive friends or are they non-productive friends? Are these people that I should go ahead and continually add to my circle? Or should I maybe go ahead and take them out of the circle and plug in other people that actually make me want to go ahead and stand up on my 2 feet like a bipedal creature that we are, and then make sure we're marching forward to whatever it is that we're trying to achieve? And so that's how I go ahead and look at that.
That's a very good way of looking at it. The people you surround yourself with, it's so very important to the person who you want to be. Because if you want to be, I want to be this great person, but you're hanging out with the people who always want to drink and go to bars and everything else, they're holding you down, right? So you have to befriend those people that will help you get to where you want to go. Not saying you're going to kick out those old friends. You might have friends for 30 years. You're not going to kick them out of your circle. You just won't pay that much attention to them,
Mm.
right? And you pay attention to the people that will help you. Unless you're that happy. If you're that happy with going out and going drinking and canoodling and whatever else you're going to do, that's fine.
Yeah,
If
that's
you
awesome then.
if you want to get ahead, you want to, then you surround yourself with people like that. Yes, it's very good. Very good. Okay. What's one story where perseverance led to a meaningful relationship, and how did that relationship change the course of a mission or a business result?
I've got quite a few of those ones. Let's see.
Just give me an easy one.
Yeah, we can definitely go with an easy one. I can go ahead and do that. College. Let's talk about college.
Okay.
College was an interesting time. For some people, it's a really tough adjustment. It's something that makes you feel a little uncomfortable. But other people, they're just like, "Yeah, I was born to be in college." So we got a little bit of all mix going on. Me, though, I was fairly neutral. I understood at the time that college is what was needed for my career trajectory at the time. It wasn't something I was in attendance for on a daily basis just because I wanted to go ahead and just be with the cool kids, or just doing it just to be there or anything like that. But one thing that I really aspired to do was, because this is when I was learning foundational skills for business. And yes, I had those experiences growing up, don't get me wrong, but this was more or less when I was actually introduced to textbook examples and techniques. So I was really beginning to implement other strategies that I was no longer self developing, but I was developing by way of listening to the instruction of others. And so there were a couple of people who I had met, and there was a business opportunity that I was introduced to during my time in college. And so what I ended up doing was I kept talking to the lead person, and I kept asking, prompting, "Hey, I know I'm good enough to go ahead and help you out. Let me help you. Let's be friends." I kept pushing and pushing. And I was doing all of these things because I was trying to really, at the time, I just was like, let me get rich. Let me get what you got. And so I didn't have many other thoughts aside from that. But what I started to realize is that when I was pushing forward in a way of just, oh, hey, I want to just get like stacks on stacks, so to speak, it was, even though looking back, the business structure itself wasn't really sound, the person was very confident with what they were doing. And they saw me as not really caring about anything but money. And they picked up very quickly on that. It was very instinctual, which I've noticed even during regular casual conversation. People will notice. People will notice that that's all that you care about, or if you're disingenuine, or if you are having something that we all call a secondary agenda. And it's very easy to see through. Now, with that being said, I started to shift my mindset there. It was like, wow, okay, if I really want to go ahead and put myself in this position, I need to be of value to this person. I need to bring them value. And then if they see that I'm bringing them value, they're going to perhaps see value in me. And so that's when the tide started turning. So we started that, and I kept persevering, I kept pushing, and I changed, and they commented on it actually a few months in. They said, wow, I'm seeing something different in you. You're developing. And I said, gosh, that's so cool that you noticed. Thank you. And so that right there really helped me self propel into the next echelon of things. But it was quite the experience because I thought that I had it all together. I thought that I was leaning forward with the right foot the entire time, but I actually had two left feet. And so that was probably one of the biggest turning points for me was that little, it was a silly little business concept too, looking back, but it taught me so much.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm getting from the whole your whole story is that you learned one thing, and that one thing was patience. You learned that if you gave, going back to what we were saying before, and you were patient, you didn't just come right out saying, look, I have this to sell, this to sell. You said you gave them value and you waited for them to see it. You waited for them to reciprocate. So it taught you patience. And that patience is what got you ahead. So that's what I got out of your whole story.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, how do you stay focused on the bigger goal of growth while still being genuine and supportive in the moment when talking with new people?
This is about to be a heavy one.
Yeah.
Not necessarily emotionally, but I'll tell you what. Yeah, remember Big Poppy in baseball? Yeah.
Yep, of course.
Now I ain't trying to create divisions here on baseball fans or nothing. But he does come from the area that I was at. So it's definitely natural that I bring him up. So keeping the big picture in my mind at all times is super important. Matter of fact, I wish you could see it, but up on a wall over here, I've got something that says stick to the plan. Stick to the plan.
Great advice.
Yes, because there are going to be so many distractions. But if you can go ahead and just stick to the plan that you personally created, you'd be surprised at what type of success you can go ahead and experience. And even when I'm developing those new relationships, I'm always thinking of like that overarching thing stick to the plan. Meet these individuals here, see who thinks very similarly, whose values and goals align with myself, and think about the level at which you could all elevate one another in order to achieve your all individual goals. Because we all do ultimately have individual goals, whether it's emotionally or spiritually, relationally, or monetarily. It's all really going to come to a culmination of we want success. And yes, success looks different for everybody, how I just described. And so if you can go ahead and one, stick to your plan, and then two, be able to just still Charlie Mike through all of this. And Charlie Mike is a military term for continued mission for anybody who doesn't necessarily know. But if you can go ahead and find a way to make those two dovetail one another, I think that you're going to go ahead and really be able to smile before you find yourself sleeping at night.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny you said that. I've had a little symbol on the side of my computer for about 15 years. And what is it? It's a Nike symbol. Just do it.
Yes.
Just do it. And that's it. Every time I get stuck or whatever else, I just look at that and say, look, just do it. Just do
Yeah.
it. And so everybody has that little bit of something. You have that up on your wall. I have it on my computer, something where you can see it all the time. And it reminds you to just stick to the plan or just do it or just it's something. But as long as it motivates you, I don't care if it says XYZ. If it motivates you, then you're going to do it. All right. So let's bring this podcast full circle. If someone listening today wants to elevate their standards, strengthen their mindset, and build relationships with more intention, what is the first concrete step that they can take within 48 hours?
I'm going to say this: stabilize yourself before you try to scale.
Good one.
Refine before you try to sell a product, sell ideas that you have, sell whatever it is. And I always will say control first, speed second.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, what this was a great conversation. Practical, real, honest, and packed with ideas people can apply immediately. If this episode struck a nerve, good. That means you're ready to elevate your standards, rethink the way you build your circle, and show up with more purpose. To our guest, thank you for bringing your experience and your heart to this space. To everyone listening, take one insight you heard today and use it in your next conversation. That's how progress starts. Until next time, keep showing up, keep building strong relationships, and keep turning conversations into opportunities. Tevin, before we go, how can anybody or somebody get hold of you because they liked you so much, they want to be coached by you, or whatever the reason? What's the best way to get hold of you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate you asking that. And very easy to get a hold of myself or my team, which inadvertently is getting a hold of me. And that is going onto Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. And you can find my brand, Momentum Mastery. That right there, if you go ahead and interact with the page or the group, or you send a direct message, it's all going to go ahead to the same space, which is over to my domain. And then you can also go over to tevinmillette.com.
Fantastic. Tevin, thank you so much. You were a great guest. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate your time and your efforts here.
Well, hold on, folks. Don't go anywhere. Let's hear from our sponsors. David Neal, co-founder, Revved Up Kids. Revved Up Kids is on a mission to protect children and teens from sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. They provide prevention training programs for children, teens, and adults. To learn more, go to revvedupkids.org. Henry Kaplan, Century 21. When it comes to making the biggest financial decision of your life, leave it in the hands of a proven professional, Henry Kaplan. Henry is a global real estate agent with Century 21, celebrating his 41st year in business. No matter where you're moving, Henry has the right connections for you. You can contact Henry at 561 427 4888. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing such incredible insights today. And of course, a big shout out to you, our amazing listeners, for tuning in and spending your time with us. If you're interested in my digital courses, being coached, or having me come and talk to your company, just go to Michael and fill out the request form. Remember, networking isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. So take what you've learned today, get out there, and make some meaningful connections. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little networking inspiration. Let's keep the conversation going. You can find me on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, or my website, forman.com/podcasts.